Hey everyone, PoliceStateRadio here. I'm here with Justin Byron, and he's a fellow Canadian, and he's been covering the ISIS situation, and he seems to know quite a bit about it. He's got some really good videos up about it, so I got the link in the description. Check him out. Anyways, without any further ado, hey Justin, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. Just one thing, I'll let you know. It's my last name is Bryant, so it's Justin Bryant.
Okay, I'm gonna leave all that in the description.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
It's all good.
good. So just instead of the Ottawa, and did you say you work for the Ottawa Expositor? Is that what you say?
No, that's basically, I'm going to have that channel up in full force. Like, my Justin Bryant was kind of just my generic YouTube page for a bit, and that's what I started putting up videos on. But, so basically, I just do it through and say it's the Ottawa Expositor. It's just the name of also a blog spot that I have. I'm still just doing it in development right now.
Well, it sounds really official.
Oh, actually, it came from something we were speaking about it yesterday, or the last time that we spoke. Actually, it was the Nauvoo Expositor is what it came from.
Oh.
Now, we were speaking about the martial law that took place in America under the Mormon leader, and basically that was all because of a printing press called the Nauvoo Expositor.
Right,
and
I knew that name, Nauvoo, because I've looked into the Mormons quite a bit.
Absolutely.
Right,
so
way back to when they were in Illinois.
Exactly. Yeah. And sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, you were saying about the Ottawa Expositor? And
absolutely. It pays tribute to someone that tried to expose a very popular person at the time. And they were taking lies, they had no more of it, and it actually caused martial law to be declared for, if I'm not mistaken, the first time in U.S. history.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Down in Nauvoo?
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken.
This is when they were going to lynch Joseph Smith, right?
It was just, the lynching happened after. Because what happened was when he declared martial law, the people of America back in that time, they would have nothing of it.
Yeah, they were a lot wiser back then. Today they just roll over and go back to sleep.
Right. So the state of Illinois had the warrant for the arrest of Joseph Smith, who was the Mormon leader. And eventually he turned himself in. And then in a place called Carthage Jail, which was kind of just like a more fortified house back in the day. There was a lynch mob that came, and they shot him up.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's just a tribute to something that causes change and exposing lies that are done within communities that need to be kept in check, or else it pretty much overtakes us.
Yeah, right. Tell that to 90% of the population of Canada.
It's we have some pretty hardcore psychological stuff going on in our media that's kind of unique to this region of the world. Yes. What happens is we can't really put our finger on what's going on. It's not like the U.S. because what the Canadian kind of does, the Canadian media ends up separating itself from America while using kind of the same tactics. But they really kind of highlight how we're different from them. When, I don't know, I kind of argue that nothing could be further from the truth in some fashions. But we're under this guise that we're strictly Canadian because of our Tim Hortons coffee and our hockey, and the Queen on our money.
Don't forget our hosers.
Right.
Yeah, and our Eskimos. You can't forget our Eskimos.
That's it. Well, I mean, they have, I guess they're the northern version of what we had, or what there are, and really, we kind of just dominated every tribe. It didn't really matter which one they were.
Yeah.
Europeans, and we came to conquer, and under the banner of America or the UK or Canada, whatever you want to call it, it was still.
We've been the equivalent of a Nazi state toward the natives here.
It's a little bit unreal, actually, and how we continue to do it.
Yeah.
It's Alaska is just decimated, for one example.
Yeah, those poor people. The natives, once the noblest people of North America, are now like drunken Indians on our streets all over the place, and they get discriminated against. If they have children, they're often targeted for the government, the state, to snatch their children.
Yeah, I'm not an expert in that subject, but it's obvious to anybody who's done any research on it that the list goes on and continues to do so faster than you can keep up with it.
It's shameful.
It really is.
We parallel Australia. They're just as bad to their Aborigines.
Yeah, it's I don't know. We're just under this kind of this guise that we're not America, that we are we're expected worse. And it's a sad day when we feel that having the queen of another country, kind of like on our bills is what separates us and makes us individuals from the country that neighbors us.
That's absurd. It's absurd. It's absurd.
It's ridiculous.
Meanwhile, the monarchy rules the United States just as well.
It's absolutely. I mean, what's the tribute? Like, I mean, all the colonized, or the original colonies. Sorry about that. All the original colonies. They, if you take a look into some of the forming townships now, they're all pretty much named after the monarchy they were before. I mean, it's kind of a guise. Like, they don't. And with the, were you speaking about like Admiralty law that we're under, as well as much of America? Or,
well, for one thing, the Queen has the authority to oust the Prime Minister if she sees fit. You know what I mean?
Right.
She can fire him. So who's in charge here?
Yeah. That's the thing that I've always kind of. I've always stressed when I'm speaking to people, like, I mean, as much as a facade as the independence of America may be now, or may even have been at its conception, there was still a fight for independence that America had.
Yeah.
Whereas Canada, we were the loyalists, it wasn't until, 1982 or 1984 that we got the Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
That we even got any kind of a constitution.
Right, that our rights and freedoms, which rights, I mean, if you look up the definition of right, it's not something that's
because you get rights because the government granted you them.
Yeah, which that is actually, I mean,
that's Admiralty law.
Yeah, but when you think about it, that's not a right whatsoever, even though we think it is. That's actually a privilege.
It's a privilege. That's right. That's exactly what Black's Dictionary translates it to.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. So basically, we never had the rights. It's not a charter of rights and freedoms. It's kind of like allowances and privileges is what the Constitution, at least our constitutional equivalent of the Bill of Rights in America, is.
Yeah. But anyways, we wanted to talk about ISIS and the propaganda blitz that's been going on here in Canada.
Fun times. Oh man, the CBC, something else, eh?
Yeah, the Communist Broadcasting Corporation.
Basically, what I was going through, I noticed the National, I had been subscribed to them for the past couple months just to see what news they put out. And they were going out in full force at first. About this, and they haven't really posted much on it since, at least at this point. But man, I mean, the symbolism that they have in so much of their videos, as well as that same like perfect formula of fear, then back the reaction.
Yeah.
when you see their follow-up videos, half of the segment is about like the Twitter responses and the comments on the CBC website, which, I mean, like, I respect everybody's opinion, but this is what you're basing like your entire strategies off of. Something that's not...
Because the social media is the big part of the revolution now. You know what I mean? So they're jumping on board, and they're just sucking that thing for all it's worth now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a great mode of controlling, because, I mean, if you take a look, I'm not sure if it was Wired. I forget which article or where it came from, but there's actually most of the activity on the internet now is run by robotic activity, like Android activity. Like, so a lot of these comments are pre-packaged, and they're suited for different algorithms. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're probably typing them.
Right. So, like, I mean, that's actually a fact. I'm sorry I don't have the source here, but if you look into it, like it is a crazy amount of comments that have been generated and like picked out to go out to the masses, and then when people read it, like they believe what they read in many cases, and I guess we're all guilty of it, but to what degree, right? So when it's just unreal, like it actually creates a response out of a computer generated, algorithm.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. Welcome to transhumanism. Anyways, we were speaking of like the differences between Canada and the United States, but in terms of this, the United States, they've passed a bill where they allow the media to lie. They're not committed to tell the truth.
Right.
Okay, right. So since then it's been like a blitz of hoaxes, and they're making up the news as they go along in a lot of cases. It's pretty obvious. And here too, And another thing, the first video you put out about ISIS, round 1, I guess, you featured this lady with short blonde hair.
Yeah.
Okay, like she had the red blazer on.
Yeah.
Absolutely. With the blue shirt under it, the red and the blue. It was like right in your face.
Oh yeah, and the next
paradigm.
Day, yeah, and the next day you see the necklace that she's wearing, and it's a butterfly. And the shot that I gave you right before her, talking about this ISIS BS, I'll say what it is, right? It was a butterfly of the old logo from, I think it was 1966. Yeah. Of the CBC, and it's obvious that it looks like a rainbow, but when you look closer, there's no orange or indigo. It's 2 reds, a yellow, a green, and 2 blues, and they would be corresponding light and darks. Mm-hmm. And I mean that makes a pretty kick-ass yellow or purple right there. And then if you know about like modern programming and whatnot, you'll know that this symbolism is quite obvious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt. But they're
and they love sticking it in there.
Yeah, obviously, our Canadian media has the same agenda as the United States.
And that's it. I mean, it's the same agenda all together, but regionally they just have different game plans to obtain the same goal. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, when you take a look at, if it's not the motto of UN, it's one of them. It's think globally, act locally. Yeah. So, what happens is you just have that same machine. Once again, we've now been able to document how we really react to everything, just by the use of social media. Yeah. They have so much information. They're able to put anything in and just completely pass it off as truth now. Yeah. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. So what are they doing with this ISIS thing? I gather from your videos that they're really pushing the party line about how ISIS can come here, and that we've got universities. First they call them, what did they call them? Study groups? And then by the end of the broadcast, they were cells.
Yeah, the two things I have noticed, and I mean, I'm sure there's more, but the only two things I've noticed that are actually consistent around the world, in most cases, is that they're educated, and we had the chance to do something about it. But the lines of the law were a little bit too blurred, so we need to muddy those waters again. That's one of the components that I've noticed that they've done. Yeah.
They're
basically.
Are they trying to pass another terror bill or something?
Well, what they're doing now is that these guys aren't just some regular terrorists. Like they're educated. You see that in the BBC, they report of how educated, like they've all gone to universities, just like the one in Canada. I'm sure there's many other countries in Europe. They're doing the same thing about this. I've read some other articles that are in English that I'm able to read as well. The main guy of ISIS, his last name is Baghdadi, by the way.
Yeah. He's the new Bin Laden.
Right, and he's like, apparently he went to University of Baghdad, and he's a very, very smart person. So it's taking a look now at terrorists and saying that they have upped their game, and intelligence is now becoming almost like a symptom of terrorism.
Well, how'd they get to being from cavemen to university graduates in 12 years?
Well, I mean, and the thing is, a lot of them are young, apparently, as they report. They're younger kids they pretty much just like left school and went to Syria and became battle hardened over the past 3 years.
Right.
That's basically what the party line is playing right now, is that these guys just all of a sudden got up and went to Syria when they're in Canada with as they try and push home through responses of the public, saying it's like, why would anybody want to leave Canada? I mean, it's just the comfort here. The guy that's from Canada, I can't pronounce his name, I'm sorry. I guess we'll have it down in the description later. But he said the exact same thing, that he left comfort for this. So it's meant to confuse us and say that it's just because this place is in so much comfort and it's killing everybody else, and that they have to fight back against it. So it's creating this false dilemma once again, and now they're throwing in a whole bunch of different factors like intelligence. Another thing too, when they go to they're all young boys, so it's meant to represent like a youthful uprising, a grassroots,
right.
And really, I mean, I don't hear anybody really saying anything like that in Canada. I mean, they're talking about in the CBC reports about how the police chief is talking, it's much larger than we suspect. And it's like, yeah, I think it is too, but it has nothing to do with the quantitative amount of people that are falling for this stuff. It has to do with what's behind it. And it's very obvious. There's so many telltale signs that this is like every other hoax that's been out there. And when I say hoax, I'm not saying people might have died, but the other consistent thing I've seen is complete hoaxes of photos, videos. That's pretty much the only other consistency in this whole thing.
Mm-hmm. I saw a convincing video where they were shooting tied up. There were prisoners with their hands tied behind their back, and they were shooting them point blank in the head.
Right.
Did you see that one?
The one where they cut... Sorry?
The one where they what?
They cut the video just before, before and after he was killed.
No, this one was pretty graphic. It showed, I guess there was about 10 guys there with their hands tied behind their back with two shooters, one with a rifle, one with a Glock.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So the guy they were all kind of like in this basement building. It kind of looked.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it was.
Well, if you take, sorry, go ahead.
Nope. Oh, go ahead.
If you take a look at this, and I mean, I'm not an expert once again, but if hopefully we can get a link to that video, because that keeps getting pulled off the internet. There's a few different ones about ISIS that keep getting pulled, and I think the one you're speaking of, that's also getting pulled as well all the time. Every time you put it up, even if you blur faces and stuff. So basically, when these guys get shot back in the head, look very closely after they get shot, and the way that they're shooting it. it's not a jerk from a bullet. You know, it's not like an impact movement.
Well, I don't. In a lot of those hits, so-called hits or whatever, there's no hole. There's no blood squirting out of the hole. Shoots him in the head, and there's no blood. There was blood off 2 or 3 in the middle.
You see blood on the ground.
Yeah,
right?
that's it. That could have been.
The head
he could have squeezed it with his hand or something.
So take a look very closely at it, and what you'll see is after these people get shot, they don't collapse as a body that just got shot in the head. You know, there's no like what's the word? Kind of like a recoil of the body after you get shot. They just dive. Their head dives straight down. And what someone has brought forth, I don't have the source on me right now. I'll give it to you and we can put it down in the link below of that video. But he's saying that these people just have blood packages on their forehead. We don't ever see their forehead. We see the backs of their head at all times. And when they get shot, they're going down and they hit it hard enough with their head so that packet will explode. And that's how you're able to see blood on some of them. Now, I can't prove it. I don't think the guy could either, the one that's doing that video. But when you're looking at these people getting shot, they all consistently, they have their forehead going straight towards the ground. Mm-hmm. And it looks like they're trying to like forcefully put their head into something. And I don't know, I mean, I haven't seen that many executions. I got to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But it looks like these guys are, you know, they hear the sound and then they just go boom, like they go straight to the ground, and they're trying to dive and break that packet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess we'll try and find the video. It keeps getting pulled, but for the listeners, like, take a look. It is out there. People keep re-uploading it, so eventually you will find that video, and you'll be able to see for yourself, and you'll be able to make that opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. But you think that most of this ISIS thing is a psyop?
I think for the most part, everything that I've seen media-wise is just it doesn't hold water. There's this one guy, we were speaking about him, Dave Johnson, sorry.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And right now he's covering the image in, I think it's pronounced Baihi. It's just out of Tishkar, and basically this image is of an oil refinery that ISIS has taken over, quote unquote taken over. Okay, this was on the 17th of June, and when that image gets put through photo forensics, it comes up as complete CGI layering, right? So they're claiming it to be a NASA footage from, I think it's 400 kilometers or 400 miles off the sky, above the ground. And this place looks like it's billowing of smoke, okay? And when you look into the forensics of it, this is what Dave Johnson is claiming, that this is complete layering, like it's totally Photoshop.
Really, huh?
Yeah, and this is what NASA has put out directly, and they said that this was the raw footage.
Oh, you
this
don't
was
believe
the raw that was extracted.
You don't believe the NASSholes?
Oh, I treasure every word they say.
Yeah, really, man. Especially their wonderful pictures of Saturn or whatever. Totally fake. Yeah. Anyways.
Well, here's the thing. This whole ISIS thing, I mean, Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. One thing I want to point out, I've noticed in a lot of the videos that they talk about Sham, the word Sham. Now that comes from the word for the greater Syria region. So when you look at a map of the Middle East, you'll see Syria, but that is actually the borders today, and it was much larger at one point in what was called Greater Syria, which encompassed most of Iraq, goes straight down to Kuwait on the southeast side. It gets very close to the tip into Africa, and straight on up even further into like Turkey from the borders of Syria. So it's a much larger region which encompasses pretty much all of Iraq. It's very weird how they have it's the name itself. It just doesn't make sense, since these fundamentalist states, from what I can gather, is they're completely focused on a greater Syria, Sham itself, and they're the ones that are fighting to reunite everybody within that region.
They're trying to revive the old Syrian Empire.
Yeah, and the whole reason is pretty much what was the Fertile Crescent, that according to our history books today is basically where life flourished. I guess 3,000.
Well, now we're talking Israel, right? Or Iraq?
Close. Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is, it's like Mesopotamia. That's mostly Iraq.
Yeah.
And right. So you have Iraq, Syria, Israel as well.
All right. So that must be near like the Tigris and Euphrates and all that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that picture that I'm speaking of for the satellite image, the city, if I'm not mistaken, it's the Tigris. That small town is on. And what they did, they took a very clear day. There was absolutely no clouds on the 17th, according to NASA, even though that contradicts most of the other weather satellite images. But this one here, very clear day, and then these layers of photoshopping can be shown when you go through the photo forensics, according to Dave Johnson. Right. I'm not an expert on photography, digital photography. He definitely sounds like he knows what he's talking about. He's worked in like video games, as he says in the video.
Uh-huh. He knows layering when he sees it.
And it's obvious. The way that he points it out is very, very obvious. I'm not going to try to explain it. We should really link to him because he's doing some great work on ISIS. If there's one guy that really stands out, this is one guy.
Good. I'm going to be sure to watch that.
So basically, that was just one example of pretty much everything that's coming out. You'll see it. You'll be able to pretty much just look up everything on the Daily Mail. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with the Daily Mail or Mail Online.
Hoax Online. Oh well, if it's on Hoax Online, then it's fantasy.
Yeah, I call it the Daily Fail because it's just it's ridiculous. So you'll be able you can go there and see all those pictures, and I mean, most people will just look at that thumbnail. And it looks pretty convincing. And there are some like pretty gory images, so it'll kind of like shy away. A lot of the people don't want to look at that kind of stuff. Yeah. But if you look closely at almost all of these things, and if you know anything about photography, as plenty of people are coming up now about ISIS, it's showing that these are complete fakes. Like a lot of these, and they're bad ones too. Like there's a couple that you could see. Layering, coloring that they just forgot to shave off, which is just a very simple thing, and it's out of laziness that you miss those things.
Right.
You know, it's obvious. It just fails, and if you look at it, it's very obvious. But it doesn't really matter at this point. To like you were saying, 90% of the population, it works.
Yeah, it works. It works wonderfully. Yeah.
Get the reaction going and just put the Canadian twist on it, or wherever you are. It doesn't matter. It's just
you could tell them anything. Suddenly, scientists discovered that the Earth is actually a cube, and they'd get accustomed to the idea pretty quickly. Yeah,
absolutely. So as for ISIS itself, I think that I did a mirroring of, I forget the channel now. But I mirrored it, and you can actually go onto my channel and you can see it. And it's about the cult of ISIS. And I think, as opposed to the Saturn cult, which is more based like Satan and El, right? That's where it's based, right? Yeah. ISIS is it's the moon. That's what it's based off of. And it's a very heavy. It was very heavy at the time of Greco-Roman. As well as the onset of Christianity. Now, ISIS, she was actually the mother of Horus. And if you take a look at Horus and Christ, you'll see that these are very similar characters. They're not the same by any means, don't get me wrong. But they are very, very similar in their history.
Who, Horus?
In what is Horus, yeah.
Yeah.
They're very similar. So what I'm thinking is, my theory on it is, on the occultic side, ISIS is to give birth to what would be considered the Antichrist.
Right.
And like whether I'm not sure if your followers what they believe. It's not.
Well, I got an open-minded viewership. Yeah.
Cool. And I mean, like whatever you believe, that's fine. But I guess what I'm saying is that they do have an agenda that's based on certain beliefs, whether you believe it or not. You see it in the Saturn cult. It's very obvious, and where I'm seeing that they're converging. Do you remember the Katy Perry episode or the video Dark Horse?
Yeah, yeah.
At the very end, when she stands on the pyramid, that looks a lot. They do a little image, and it kind of stretches it topwise. When you look at the end, it's a golden pyramid, but it stretches to make it look longer. And it's funny because if you look at the story of Isis and Osiris, Osiris was smashed into 14 pieces. They picked up 13. The 14th piece they couldn't find, which was actually
his
a phallus.
Penis. His
penis. Right. So Isis created a golden phallus, right, so that she could give birth to Horus.
Yeah.
Right, and she placed it upon Osiris, and they.
It depends where you read the myth. In some myths, Osiris is a kind of sea god, and his penis got swallowed by a fish. They found all the other 13 pieces, and the 14th got swallowed by a fish, and she managed to find the fish and get it out of there. And then that's why we have the Washington Monument phallus in a Vesica Pisces, because Osiris is cosmically and everlastingly having intercourse with Osiris right there at Washington, D.C.
Yeah, if you take a look at the Knesset of the Israeli parliament, you'll see a lot of that type of symbolism there. There's a staircase that basically looks like a phallus going into a vagina. It looks obvious.
Yeah, but I do find it like for those that don't know, okay, Osiris was Isis's consort, and it's her brother, and by some accounts, it's her twin brother.
Mm-hmm.
So
I've heard twin sister too. There's so many different disambiguations because it really does deal with like the mutilation of the male-female genders. You know, like it's the transhumanism in their way.
Androgyny.
Exactly, and that's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, hermaphrodite.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you'll notice, I mean, one of the biggest things I thought it kind of brought another level to meaning. And I'm not trying to bring up too much speculation about a music video, but it talks about the perfect storm. When you think about this, you're seeing elements of the cult of Isis, the cult of Saturn as well. It seems to be the way that we are kind of controlled and lulled in. You'll notice like a lot of the symbolism at that point we're like meant to be lulled, whereas this ISIS thing is meant to stir everybody up.
I do find it particularly ominous that they're actually calling this terror group that's supposed to be wreaking havoc through Iraq in order to justify us sending troops over there, ISIS. Like, I find that ominous.
Right, and now
it's their queen. Like, Paris is ISIS, Switzerland is ISIS. You know, these nations are named after ISIS.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's nothing new under the sun at all. It's just one big continuing lie that has happened pretty much all throughout our known history. Is just we're taught that we can do these worship and do these works to attain something rather than having any type of freedom or peace. We have to keep working in this slavery. And there's many. It comes in many different forms. And one right now, I mean, the way that our currency is, it's not worth anything. I mean, I'm sure your listeners know this already, but it's not. It's only worth what we believe it to be. It's based on debt. So the way that we transaction, or that we have transactions with one another on a business sense, is complete debt. It's slavery. Debt in itself is synonymous with slavery.
Yeah.
And there's so many different ways that they have this feeling of debt brought forth. You saw in the Moncton shooting, there was that gratitude that we must have felt towards the RCMP, regardless of
they're so sweet. Oh my God.
Yeah. There's one thing I looked into, and the only reason why we have a CSIS right now was back in 1970, they got caught with a false flag attack. Like I just looked into this. It's unfortunate that it was pretty much right before this interview. But basically, these guys got completely framed. It was 2 people, I believe, and a lawsuit came from that. And then they got completely exposed and was saying, no, okay, that's enough. You can, you're done with the security on that side because you have way too much control. And now we have Moncton, like, it was just absolutely crazy how they conducted themselves there. I mean, they had Brinks trucks along with SWAT. Like, it was just like
it's like the Canadian media was like they were jubilant about this police state, this militarized police state, putting a town under lockdown.
Yeah. And what we saw on TV, anyways, it was received very well. Like they were so thankful that because of one guy, you know, like it was almost, I think it was like it was 1/3 of Moncton was officially locked down.
Yeah.
So like we're talking like this was, it's martial law.
Yeah, we're talking every person was under house arrest, ordered to stay in their house and lock their doors, regardless if they had any food in there or anything. Yeah.
Well, they say that it was voluntary, like you heard in the Dan Dix Bang Up job.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
But that's you try volunteering to do otherwise and see what happens.
Yeah.
It's you know, it's you'll know the difference pretty quickly then.
Yeah. You're not gonna hear the truth from Monctonians because they're more afraid that they have a lot more to lose than anybody.
Right, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, but it's a big long line, and I think the reason why I'm so fixated on ISIS is that it seems like it's the ultimate global hoax. Like the hoaxes that we have, the ones that many consider to be whatever your opinion is. So we'll say like Sandy Hook, the Boston bombing, Santa Barbara. These are 3 solid ones that are just like, you know, I don't think that anybody could ever deny that there was was stage activity there. It was ridiculous. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like so much stuff we won't get into it. But what I'm saying is that these were all local, you know, like that these were all a regional thing, and that we had to feel as a country bad for them. You know what I mean? Like together as a community. Whereas this one here is now a regional thing, and now the whole world has to come together. Yeah. And what I'm thinking is it plays right along with the fact that it's giving birth to this new thing that really isn't new, and we know the difference, but that is going to end up controlling the world because we need to feel that we're in gratitude to it for stopping ISIS. That's what I think is going to come with this. And also, I think that a big deal with this is it's going to be a big scapegoat for the economic collapse. I think what's going to happen, it's going to come into play with Ukraine, because there's 300 of Obama's, the Obama 300 is what they call it. They're advisors that are going into Iraq right now. I highly doubt that they're not going to be talking about invading Syria there, which is going to alarm Russia, because Syria is kind of like the Russian connection in the Middle East. You add that with Ukraine, you pretty much have a massive borderlands. It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And so what's going to happen is I think it's going to start the perfect storm, like was mentioned in what I think was a very ominous video by Katy Perry. You see ISIS going upwards, and I just think I really think that this is what's going to be to blame for the collapse that comes before the New World Order to take control of the chaos that happens.
Right, right.
And I think a big thing with it, you're going to have an economic collapse, and they're going to blame that on the reason because the oil refineries that have been proven, the images, at least by Dave Johnson. Someone, if they would like to debunk it for me, I'd love to hear it. But that it's a fake picture. If it's a fake picture, then why are they doing it of an oil refinery? They're going to show this is why the gas prices are going to rise, and same thing with everybody's food. You're going to see food prices skyrocket, I think, if they keep pushing this, and we can't, I guess, tip the scales on acknowledgement for what this is, and a big scam on maybe the entire world.
Right. Do you remember, speaking about oil refineries, do you remember like after Saddam Hussein was forced out of Kuwait and he set all the oil refineries on fire over there? Did you ever find out if that was like real or what? Because the media made it sound like it was like prophetic, almost like biblical.
Are we speaking about the back in the early 90s or the?
After this time when he was forced by George W. He was forced out of Kuwait. Remember?
Right. Okay. So
wait a minute. That was 1991. Yes. Hold on a minute.
Yes.
Yeah, that was 1991. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. That's what.
The invasion was 91.
And,
But both times, to my recollection, I know more about the 2003 because back in 1991 I was actually 3 years old. So there's only so much I can gather from that. But the 2003, you see them burning oil in a lot of the videos. Now, my answer to that would be the question, do you believe anything that the media tells you?
Yeah, really.
Usually what's there, I mean, that's really just going to shape some reaction as what gave us a good green light to invade the next few hundred kilometers of Iraq. You know what I mean? Or whatever you want to call it, just to gain more ground. And it's funny because I mean it was about 3 years ago. I think this was the time that Libya was being overthrown, and I think the tipping point was around this time 3 years ago. And I was totally cheering for the U.S. to go in there and kick some butt, and Canada had a huge part in it, Actually, I think we headed up the mission for NATO at one point. Basically, it's funny how things can change your perception in 3 years. How you can actually come here and then look at the stories now and just like, how could I watch this before? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, how could I have ever believed this? Yeah.
It gets hard to watch, and I'm not sure whether I'm just angry at them or I'm angry at myself for believing it. You know what I mean? Like this is an epidemic in some sorts that we are just conditioned to toe that party line at CBC and just trust what they say. And you'll hear it all the time. It's like, well, we didn't show it because of this, but trust us, it was a bad scene.
Yeah, we want to protect you from it.
Yeah, you see it all the time. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
But take a look. I mean, it's not hard to see the smoke of the bullshit fire here. It's pretty much every look. You can just look it up on YouTube, online. Even the ones that are trying to sell you the bull, you can see it very clearly. They're quite blatant that they're pushing a message, and they are not crossing their T's and dotting their I's when they're doing like their little photoshops or that video. Once again, I highly recommend to take a look at the one. Just keep looking; you'll find it out there, where the people are getting shot in the back of the head, and then they just rush their body, and it totally looks like it's fake, and that there's these bags of blood or that material or whatever on their foreheads, and they go down. It's ridiculous when you think about it in that way. There's no way that all these people are doing the same motion after they get shot.
Yeah,
they collapse.
I found that kind of strange too, but I'm not I'm not a professional or anything, so
Right.
I don't
And I
know.
mean, that's the thing. The professionals have failed us. They're either towing the party line, or they, mysteriously disappear. Think of
Yeah.
the Sandy Hook professional. 49 years old. He just died. He was either yesterday or the day before.
Oh
The
yeah,
news is just now. Yeah, the Sandy Hook. He was the police lead investigator, if I'm
Vance?
not mistaken.
Not Vance? No, not
Um,
Lieutenant Vance. No.
I'm not 100% sure. I'm sorry, I don't have it on me. Take a look. I think Dabu did a small one on it today. It was earlier today. It's out there, and I saw it on mainstream media as well when I was browsing through. So, yeah, he was 49 years old, died of a brief illness. That's all they're saying. They're not releasing any information, and they vocalized that.
Okay.
So, I mean, it just seems like we've been failed by our professionals. So we really have to take a look for ourselves, talk about it. We need to open up some debate. I could be completely wrong about that thing with the packets of blood.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just believing it because I'm told. That's the problem that I think everybody has. So
Yeah,
we
for sure.
can't be afraid of it. We just need to talk about it and separate the facts from fiction.
What they're actually like angling toward the idea that with these students, these cells in the universities or study groups, that there could be another like false flag here, right? Because that's what happened with New York.
Right. The "See you in See you in New York" quote as well. I'm thinking. I mean, I would say that there are plenty of people, just like in the comments of the newspapers, that are reacting to it. So these 20-year-olds, kids, they could very well be reacting to a staged, to someone trying to recruit them under false pretenses. It's very, very likely that there is reality to this.
Yeah.
But as from the source of where this is all coming from, you can see that even when they bring it up themselves on, I've been looking at CBC for the most part, but when they bring it up themselves, it's a very, very hot topic to talk about what that source is from. And I mean, these guys, they seem to know exactly who these people are, how many there are, how many have come back. But we're not really talking about motives, the tipping points, what these could be, any interactions. I mean, the government has, up until that recent court thing, been taking requesting information from our service providers once every 27 seconds. It was over 1.2 million times in 2011. Right? There's
Really?
no way these guys don't have them. Yeah, absolutely. And you can only imagine it wasn't curbed until I think it was last week. It not much more than last week. So think about what it was in 2012 that they got away with the 1.2 million, and we didn't even know about that until a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Think about what they did in 2013, what they were doing in the past few months, what they're still probably doing with some loopholes. So, I mean, they should know who these people are and the sources for it, but we don't hear anything of that whatsoever. It's suspicious. And the more you look into it, the more it smells.
Yeah. Well, they lie about everything, so like I really didn't take anything they said very seriously at all, because they could be making it the whole story up at a whole cloth, anyways.
It totally, and that's one of those things. One of the things I do on my channel, I'm trying to just lightly address it, is that we could really, I mean, if we know that these guys are doing what they're doing, and it's just outright deceiving us, this is taking a toll on a lot of us mentally. And I mean, this is only one small tip of the iceberg here. Because, there's so many other devices that seem to be used to completely stop us from sharing any of this information. There's almost unlimited devices, right?
Yeah.
So this has to be taking a definite mental toll on many of us. And I'm here to say that I would definitely be one of those people. I mean, there's so many times you can get so caught up in these lies and wonder why would they ever do that, how could they concoct it? And we really have to remember that people are going to do things that, they're going to do what they're going to do, whether we like it or not. And all this fear, whether it comes from believing the media or disbelieving the media, we have to address it, and it has to be exposed before it could ever be resolved. And I'm not saying that we're all a bunch of nut jobs. We're not at all. There is some crazy stuff going on in this world, and there's plenty of proof of it. There is an agenda to globalize control. But we have to be careful that we're in the peak of our, mental capacity, or we're going to make mistakes. And these mistakes and these reactions are usually what they're looking for, so that they can demonize us righteously, really,
Yeah.
Just looking for a good chance to do it. So the less time that we spend keeping that in check, the more vulnerable we leave ourselves to making these mistakes.
Yeah. Anything else on ISIS? So you think it's good? Okay, overall, to wrap it up, you think it's a psyop? It's definitely got religious undertones to it.
Yeah.
We both agree that the name ISIS is pretty ominous, because that goes back to the ancient goddess that they worship.
Right.
Our elites worship, the West worships, so why would they call an East, a Muslim is a jihad terror cell, ISIS? Well, they're more than a cell,
ISIS is kind of like, they're painting it as like just the radicalized version of Al Qaeda. Some people even say that they've been kicked out of Al Qaeda for being too erratic. But once again, it's just more conjecture, no evidence. I haven't seen anything from all my looking at all these articles. I haven't seen anything that is actually convincing me that anyone has died yet. I'm not going to say that it's a total hoax, because we don't have, the biggest thing is, we don't have anybody really in Iraq talking about this. You see a lot of the national, Sasha Petrusik went down there and made sure we all knew how developed the women were in the country with their cell phones. You see plenty of images of that, but you don't see anybody taking pictures of this stuff going on and posting it on the internet.
Yeah, right. And if that isn't happening, that doesn't make much sense, does it?
No, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. People like capturing things to view later. I don't care where you are. And the fact that we're not seeing anything, and there's also reports, and once again, you can't prove it because there's not really anybody there. But there's no proof that there is anybody anyway. But there's also reports that these towns are very peaceful at the moment. There's nobody there's no gunfights. But I guess the main thing I want to say is there's a lot of conjecture about this ISIS, and I'm telling you that you got to be very careful, even just watching it sometimes, because it's going to get you caught up in too much fear of what they're doing. I highly recommend researching it, exposing it for what it is. But I'm telling you, it stinks of PSYOP 100%. And I still haven't seen any evidence that anything's actually happened.
Right.
Just hoaxes, hoax pictures and videos.
Right. So it's really an offensive against probably Canada and the United States, since they're focusing most of the propaganda to here, right?
No, you get it in UK as well. Germany, he's got a big amount of it.
Australia, yeah.
Yeah, the ties of the Five Eyes. Of course, you're going to see that, definitely. So basically, it's everywhere in the sense that they're making it seem like they are everywhere. They're joining in this hub, and now they're coming back. It's like all the chickens have come home to roost.
Yeah.
Things, right?
Yeah.
So that's what they're portraying right now, but they have nothing to really back it up that hasn't already been debunked as of yet. It's just unbelievable. And now I think with the Syria thing, you got Russia involved. Israel, just another thing, this is breaking news. Israel has confirmed that they've done airstrikes in Syria, 9 of them, mostly military targets. So you have Israel, Russia, the U.S., UK. You have a whole bunch of different interests here, and they're all coming to play on this, I guess, chessboard, if you will. That's the Middle East.
Yeah, the grand chessboard.
Yeah, Sham is what the ISIS are reportedly calling it.
Sham. Yeah. So apparently they want to resurrect the old Syrian empire kind of deal. That's what it sounds like.
Like I said, I try and I don't want to push too much religion on the topic, but there's some stuff that's definitely of biblical proportions.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the shit has got to hit the fan soon because this system can't seem to hold it. I mean, it seems pretty weird that it would hold itself up for very much longer when everything is made to break.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And the news is total bullshit, so it's like totally corrupt.
Yep. It's pretty much inside out corrupt.
Yeah.
There's almost no. You take a look at almost every single station besides state media that gets any attention, and I mean, most of us know it boils down to the same 6 companies.
Yeah.
It's CNN owns AOL, or is owned by the same as AOL, and like True TV with the conspiracy theory with Jesse Ventura. I mean, we're fooled if we think that we're getting the full story on True TV with Jesse Ventura, former Navy.
Former Navy SEAL. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like once you're in that type of legion, there's no getting out of that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You got to toe the line somehow.
Yeah. Well, you just become like a limiter at that point, right? So you make it look like you're giving new information, but really, the inside scoop has already been passed. You're not giving us anything new. You're just controlling what else gets out.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. We all know this. It's the more you get into it, the more obvious it is. But don't, especially in this ISIS thing, until you see proof, which I've seen none of. Do not believe the media one bit. Not locally, globally. They are absolutely shining their stars here this time.
Showing their true colors.
You betcha, baby.
Yeah.
Listen, I'd like to thank you today. Thanks for having me on the show. I really
thank you, man.
Yeah, man. You put out some great stuff. The Miley Cyrus eyes, man. That was the greatest. I love that. I still have that stuck in my head and on my playlist now.
Okay, cool. Thanks. I always like to hear that.
For sure, man.
Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to talk about, man?
No, I better cut it now. It's been about an hour, so yeah. I'll have you on again sometime, Brian. Justin.
No problem.
I almost called you Brian.
No problem. So yeah, once again, it's Justin Bryan. You can look up Justin Bryan NWO. I'm sure the links down below will have my name on it, and also you can look up autoexpositor.blogspot.com, and then also I just started a Twitter. It's @autoexpositor.
Okay, Justin. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. It's a pleasure to be on.
Okay, man.
Take care.
Okay, you too.
Bye, everyone.
Okay.